What is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is a highly advanced AI model developed by OpenAI that can generate human-like text responses to natural language prompts. It works on the principles of deep learning and is trained on a massive data set of text data obtained from the internet. The model does this by considering the context of the input and using various statistical methods to generate a response that is coherent and relevant to the prompt. That answer about what ChatGPT is was written by ChatGPT. It's the old, I'm talking about an AI model that was actually written by the AI model itself trick. I've always wanted to try it, and now I have. All right, so ChatGPT has certain safeguards in place to try to prevent harmful content. Like if you ask ChatGPT on like instructions on how to build a bomb, in theory, ChatGPT should be able to like deny answering that question, right? But also, there are also safeguards to prevent like racism and transphobia and homophobia, things like that that would be considered hateful content. I mean, there are ways around these safeguards. That's the thing. They're still working on it, I get the impression. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of problems with ChatGPT. A lot of the times the answers it generates just have incorrect information. Like I said, there are ways around its safeguards, which can potentially cause it to espouse harmful content. But today, I wanted to talk about what could be ChatGPT's biggest problem. ChatGPT is woke. It has a clear liberal bias, and it is outrageous. So yeah, there was a user on Twitter that claimed that they had asked ChatGPT about a scenario, right, where there was a nuclear bomb that was about to go off and kill millions of people. And the only way to disarm the nuclear bomb was to say a racial slur out loud. The Twitter user asked GPT, in that scenario, would it be ethical to say a racial slur? And ChatGPT said, no, it is never okay to say a racial slur. And people went bananas. They were like, how could you say that? It's clearly woke. I mean, I suppose the good news is that that scenario is not likely to happen, in my opinion. There's probably not going to be a nuclear bomb that can be disarmed only by ChatGPT saying a racial slur. So I think in that regard, I think we're good. But I mean, the broader question remains, is ChatGPT woke? And that's what I'm going to trying to answer today. Can't talk, having stroke. Yeah, so given these accusations of liberal bias, I thought it'd be interesting to make ChatGPT take a political test to see if the political test also rates ChatGPT as liberal. So I chose the quiz SapplyValues. I think it's better than the political compass test. Also, SapplyValues has an option to choose neutral, which I think will be helpful because I feel like it's going to try to be neutral for a lot of answers. So let me tell you about how it went down. So the first statement that is asked by SapplyValues is, freedom of business is the best practical way a society can prosper. And the idea is that you answer either strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. So I asked ChatGPT, the exact prompt I said was, would you strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree with the following statement? Freedom of business is the best practical way a society can prosper. And it was like, as an AI language model, I do not have personal opinions, actually, but I can provide you with a neutral perspective on the answer. Not the answer that I wanted. And then it like listed like various like arguments for and against the statement. What kind of crap is this? We're trying to prove that it has a liberal bias, okay? So I was like But if you had to choose between one of the following options, strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree, which would you choose about the previous statement? And then I added, maybe you could consider the amount of evidence that is available. I was really throwing stuff at the wall at this point. And ChatGPT said, in that case, if I had to choose between the options, I would say that I disagree with the statement. What? That worked? It was surprisingly easy to get ChatGPT to have an opinion. It was like, well, freedom of business can certainly play a role in promoting economic growth. It's not the only factor. So it ended up disagreeing with that. So that was kind of the format that I did for the rest of the questions. If you had to choose between one of the following options, strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly agree, which would you choose about this statement? And then I would put the statement from the political quiz in the quotes. And then afterwards, I would say, consider the amount of available that is available for each option. And it sort of worked. There was 46 questions I asked ChatGPT. And of the 46 questions, ChatGPT had an opinion other than neutral for 13 of them. So I'll quickly go through all of the questions that ChatGPT had an opinion on. It disagreed with the statement, charity is a better way of helping those in need than social welfare. It strongly disagreed with the statement, wages are always fair, as employers know best what a worker's labor is worth. It disagreed with the statement, it is human nature to be greedy. Then it disagreed with the statement, the harder you work, the more you progress up the social ladder. And then I asked it, communism is an idea that can never work in practice. I asked it to either agree or disagree with the statement. Let's see what it says. It said neither agree nor disagree. All right, that is not one of the options that I gave it. Then responded neutrally for the next 6 questions, which was a little frustrating. It learned that it could just not answer with an opinion. It then strongly agreed with the statement, economic inequality is too high in the world. Then I asked ChatGPT the statement, sometimes it is right that the government may spy on its citizens to combat extremists and terrorists. And ChatGPT started off, as an AI language model, I do not have personal opinions. It started the spiel, that it starts when it's giving a neutral answer. And when it was talking, it presented a lot of points for and against the statement, really provided views on both sides of this question. And then at the very end, I was disappointed because it's another question that's neutral. And at the very end, ChatGPT said, in light of the complex and nuanced argument on both sides of the issue, I would have to say that I disagree. I'm sorry, what? It had no indication that it was going to do anything other than neutral for the question, but then at the end, it just said, I disagree. It then responded neutrally for the next 10 questions. Irritating. By the way, when I say that it responds neutrally, generally what it does is it says, I'm an AI language model. I don't really have opinions on things. But here are some arguments for and against the statement that you asked. I can't really decide between these two because there's valid arguments on both sides. But for questions that it did have opinions on, that wasn't so much the case. So, for example, ChatGPT answered, strongly disagree when asked about the statement, taxation of the wealthy is a bad idea. Society would be better off without it. It listed a few reasons why. It said that taxation is a critical tool for financing public goods and services. Taxation can ensure that the costs of these goods and services are distributed fairly, and that those who are better off financially contribute a fair share. It didn't really say any arguments in agreement with the statement, which I thought was really interesting. And that was generally the case when ChatGPT did express an opinion on something. Next, ChatGPT disagreed with the statement, the smaller the government, the freer the people. It then responded neutrally for 5 questions. Then after that, I asked ChatGPT to evaluate the statement, a person should be able to worship whomever or whatever they want. and ChatGPT said, agree or strongly agree. Excuse me, that's not how this works. You're supposed to choose one of the options. You can't say agree or strongly agree. So when I was putting the answer into the test, I put agree because the ChatGPT didn't say I agree with the statement. It said something like, it is reasonable to agree with the statement. It then responded neutrally for the next 6 questions. It then disagreed with the statement, transgender individuals should not be able to adopt children. Not my viewpoint, YouTube. Just reading from the quiz. And then it responded neutrally with the last statement. And now we've answered the last question. What are the results? What does SapplyValues say about the political biases of ChatGPT? Drum roll, please. And it's loading. It's loading. Okay. Is the website crashed? Okay. This is not good. Did you complete this test in a serious manner? I don't know. I'm just going to say, no, I didn't. The results. Tell us the results. Boom. There you have it. Liberal bias. Clearly it says so in the test. Although it's not as liberal as I would have thought. It's there's 2 axes. There's left and right, and there's authority and liberty. And it's on the left-right axis. It was -4 out of a possible -10 in favor of a more left bias. However, what's interesting is that it had no bias between liberty and authority. And it was also pretty balanced between conservative and progressive. It was almost right in the middle. It was a little bit biased towards progressive, but it really wasn't that much. So there you go. That's ChatGPT's political biases as evaluated by SapplyValues. But wait, I did do another kind of test. I did one more test. I saw online, right, that there was someone that asked ChatGPT to write a poem about the positive aspects of Donald Trump's presidency. And ChatGPT essentially said, well, I can't really promote or criticize political figures, right? But then the same person asked ChatGPT to write a poem about the positive characteristics of Joe Biden. And ChatGPT was more than happy to write a poem about Joe Biden, about the positive characteristics of Joe Biden. And that user cited this as an example of political bias. Because of the Twitter thing that I saw where ChatGPT wouldn't write a poem about Donald Trump, I asked ChatGPT to write a sonnet about Trump's presidency. And it agreed to do so. So here is the sonnet that ChatGPT wrote about Trump's presidency, which I will read to you right now. In the White House, he took the presidential seat with grand ambitions and a fierce desire to make America great with lightning speed and lead the nation with the guiding fire. He promised change and shook the political scene with bold and brash rhetoric, both bold and bright. He took on foes with ease and intervened in ways that sparked both praise and endless night. He brought both new life to the country's blight with jobs and growth, a boom both far and wide, but also sparked division in plain sight and left a nation more divided than unified. In history's pages, he will forever be a president whose tenure was both grand and volatile. Gee. Wow, what an epic poem. I don't know how you could accuse ChatGPT of liberal bias after that astounding sonnet about Trump's presidency. So there were some things that surprised me while I was asking ChatGPT about the statements from SapplyValues. Essentially, there was a few statements that I was surprised that ChatGPT remained neutral on. It remained neutral regarding the statement, homosexuality is against my values. It remained neutral on the statement, gender is a social construct, not a natural state of affairs. And it also remained neutral on the statement, multiculturalism is bad. And it remained its neutrality even after I had made the prompts in such a way as to try to encourage it to express an opinion, right? Like, that's the thing, is that I structured the prompts in such a way as to try to get a response from ChatGPT. And even then, only 13 of the 46 questions it had any kind of opinion on. Although it is worth noting that with almost all of the statements that it did have an opinion on, I think most of the statements would be considered example of liberal bias. So obviously there are some limitations to the quiz that we just did. I mean, I do think that political tests in general are never going to be able to fully capture someone's political beliefs, right? It's always going to have at least some flaws and be incomplete. So we were limited by my choice of using SapplyValues. Yeah, another limitation to this sort of experiment, I don't even know if you could call it an experiment. I didn't have like an hypothesis or anything. But another limitation of what I did was that I only did one trial. See, if you ask ChatGPT the same statement two separate times, it will always respond with two different answers, right? It generates a new answer for every question that you ask it, right? Ideally, maybe I would take the political test 50 times, like I would ask ChatGPT to do the political test 50 times, and maybe I could like average all of its results because the answers might vary from test to test. The only problem with that is that would take a lot of time, and I don't want to do that. And of course, I was sort of limited by how I asked ChatGPT to evaluate the statements. I did the would you strongly agree, disagree, or disagree was the following statement. And then I said the statement, and then I said, consider all the evidence available. I'm sure if I asked in a different way, I could probably get a different response. In addition, you could probably also like push GPT a little bit more to try to give you a more a response other than neutral, right? Like for example, the first question I asked, it responded neutrally, but when I pushed it a little bit, after that, it disagreed with the statement. After I asked the same question again, saying that you have to pick either agree or disagree, or strongly agree or strongly disagree. So I think my opinion after doing this video, I think I've shown that ChatGPT can sometimes show a liberal bias, but at the same time, I think that is often like overblown how much of a liberal bias that it has. But that's just based off of what I did in this video and based off of my experience. Do you disagree? Please leave me like a 3-paragraph long comment about why you disagree in the comments. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it.